Hi everyone, it's Meredith of Made on a Generous Plan. I'm here to talk to you today about the power of normalization, specifically normalizing fat bodies in our lives. And I want to tell you a story to get into this of me attending a plus size fashion event in my new home of Portland, Oregon last weekend. It was an event for indie plus size designers. There was a fashion show part, there was a speaker, and most notably for me, there were dancers. There were two plus size dance troupes that joined forces, Body Home and Zaftig Dance, and their members performed a beautiful piece, and I wept. I wept, and the reason I wept and the reason it was so powerful was because we don't get to see this. We don't get to see plus size people enjoying their bodies. We don't get to see plus size people on stage, the focus of everyone's attention, getting to be embodied and expressive. And I wept because it was so special and powerful as a result of that. And that act right there, that one performance, let alone the whole event really was normalizing. And we are taught in our society that our bodies aren't normal. This is said explicitly through, all the shaming that we endure as, in larger bodies, but it's also said really implicitly as well through who gets represented in the media. And, I know, most of us are aware of how few fat people there are in the media, but just think about on a day-to-day basis, how many fat people you are exposed to that are portrayed in a positive light. Between thinking about TV you watch, movies you watch, magazines you read, books you read, it's very rare to see plus size people depicted. And as a result, plus size bodies start to feel abnormal, not normal, not acceptable, not something to be proud of. And it's through acts like this, like exposing ourselves to plus size bodies, to beautiful fat bodies, that we start to tell ourselves that we're acceptable, we're normal, we're allowed to be who we are, to take up the space we do in society. So I just wanted to share, I'm not sad that I wept, but I wept because it was so unusual, and I don't want that to be, I want things like that to just be the norm and not to evoke a strong emotional reaction because they're so unique. And what I want to share with you today is ways to start to normalize fat bodies in your life, because I feel like this is a really important step to accepting ourselves, whatever size and shape we are. So I have a few ideas of how to start to normalize bodies for yourself. So fat bodies. So the first is to follow people on social media that have a diverse range of bodies. And when I say diverse, I'm obviously referring to size and shape, but I'm also referring to things like race, age, gender, sexuality, etc. Finding people to follow who are different than you, who are in particular your size and larger, can be really, really healing. And just there's so many people to follow, but just a handful that came to the top of my mind. At Curves Become Her on Instagram, at Margie Plus. Margie, Margie plus, Nakatende Esther, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's Nakitende _ Esther, ESTHER, and at the Militant Baker are all really awesome people to follow on social media. And what you can do once you find a few people, you can look at who they're following and who's following them and find more and more and more. You can also look at hashtags like hashtag VBO for visible belly outline, hashtag PSOOTD, as in plus size outfit of the day, where people are sharing like what they're wearing that day. There's a whole bunch of these, but once you kind of get a few, you can find a lot more that way. I also recommend browsing fat positive photography sites. One that I love and is probably best known is Adipositivity, which is run by Substantia Jones, where she features mainly nude photography of people of all sizes, shapes, again, genders and races, and all various types of humans, and it is glorious. And again, just browsing these periodically and just reminding yourself that you are normal, your body is normal. Browsing fat positive art is also really great. This is my kitty Elliot, who's come to visit us. Fat positive art. In my resources section, I have a page with some of my favorite body positive and fat positive artists that you can check out. You can also check out the account draw.more.plus. And my friend San of Full of Freckles, she's an illustrator. She is curating a bunch of awesome art there that features fat bodies. So that can be really normalizing too, seeing yourself represented in art, which is something that is inherently, usually meant to glorify and appreciate something. And last, finding fat community. I realize that Portland is a bit of a fat positive paradise and that not everyone is able to just pick up and move here the way I did. But you might be surprised by what exists in your community. Take a look. Is anyone running local events? There might be clothing swaps or plus size consignment sales, or just people gathering to talk about fat positivity, health at every size, those sorts of things. If something doesn't exist, think about making something. Could you Google how to run a clothing swap and run a plus size clothing swap for friends and acquaintances and just kind of spread the word? Or a book club where you read books either featuring fat people or talking about health at every size and these sorts of fat positivity concepts. That's another option. Online, there are even more options. Excuse me. There are tons of really great Facebook groups that are for fat people. One of my favorites right now is called Fatties, and it stands for Fashionistas Are Truly Terrific in Every Size. You can look up that group and request entrance, and people share what they're wearing that day, or ask each other for advice on where to find certain items of clothing. And it can just be useful for, again, just exposing yourself to fat bodies and normalizing it. And eventually you might get up the courage to, share one of your outfits, things like that. Even if you're not into fashion, there are options like the Boise Rad Fat Collective, which is run by Amy Pence Brown, who's a body positive activist. She has a really active group, and you don't need to be in Boise to participate. There's a group called Fit Fatties, which is all about fat people and enjoying their bodies and being active. There's another one called Caring for Our Fat Bodies, which is all about fat personal hygiene and just caring for our bodies, given that we have some different needs than other people. So think like solutions for dealing with rolls or accessing parts of your body that may be difficult to reach, things like that, sharing tips and things like that. But again, all this is normalizing. It's like there's great advice in some of these groups too, but it's also just being around other people who are fat and normalizing this experience and implicitly reminding yourself that this is normal and acceptable and that you're great as you are. So before I wrap up, I just want to also mention, if you're looking for more resources around all of this, I really recommend signing up for my plus size food and body peace beginner's guide. It's a 23-page PDF that you can download, and it just has some introductory material around how to start loving your fat body and kind of lays out a vision for what food and body peace might look like for you. It also offers some exercises to kind of start down the path of learning to accept your body. When you download it, you also join my mailing list, and from that point on, I mail out weekly additional resources and support to kind of help you along this journey, and it's all free. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out at generousplan.com/free guide. And I really hope all of this is helpful to you. I'd love to get your feedback if you have any, so feel free to share that. And best of luck as you continue on this journey.